Greetings and welcome to PinballHelp. Mike here. Now, if you last left us, which might have been 20 seconds ago, if you're watching the video series, a little bit of time has passed. I ordered some products, I got some things in, and had a chance to do a few little things to the board. So, where we're at is this Bally-35 MPU has not been booting. We couldn't get the LED would just stick on. Couldn't figure it out. Swapped out the chips. That didn't work. Isolated it down to something in the clock circuit by reading the voltage on some of the pins of the MPU, which you can get at either end of these two resistors here. There's supposed to be different voltages coming off of these two right sides of these resistors on either side of the main CPU that are fed from the clock circuit. Got erroneous readings, so had to pull out the schematics here, and this is the clock circuit, which consists of two ICs. This is one IC here, and this is the other IC here. And in tracing where they output to the pins on the CPU, pin 3 and 37, they go back to this U16, which is a 9602 timer thing. It's a timer thing. It's a very technical term. You wouldn't understand. Neither do I. Anyway, it's a integrated circuit. So replaced and checked all the resistors and everything all around it, still no luck. So the next step was to replace this 9602 and hope that it didn't take out the chip downstream from it. But since the voltages come straight out of this over this, there's a good chance this is the main culprit. So what I did was, while I was waiting for the parts to come in, I soldered in a socket, 16 dip socket here, and then when the chip came in, I just was able to plug it in. Now, I also ordered these two capacitors, C14 and C15, I believe, that are 470 picofarads. I was unable to test those either in or outside of the circuit because they're such a low value. My tester can't register them. I'm not sure. I have to do a little bit of research, but my tester that I use is this guy right here, called the Peak Atlas ESR, and I don't think it goes down that low. It's mainly useful for electrolytic capacitors. But anyway, I figured rather than start, even though I got a new U15 and I got these two new caps, let's just replace the timer circuit and see, just because even if it's other stuff, or even though it might not be a bad idea sometimes to replace other components, I want to know where the problem is. So I've hooked this thing up after replacing the 9602 to our homebrew power supply, which is a PC power supply with jumpers. So there's a separate video I did on how to rig that up if you missed it. So we've got our three lines coming off, the black ground going to test point 4, the red, which is plus 5 volts DC, going to test point 5, and the yellow, which is 12 volts, going to test point 2. So I've got everything hooked up. This is plugged in. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look at this LED right here, and we're going to see if anything changes from the last time that we did this. So I'm going to flip the switch on, and we should see this do something. So let's see. A flash, blink. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yay! All right, that's what we wanted. So we have gotten this board to boot. The board has booted. It was dead before. It was absolutely dead. So we know this guy right here, U16, was the problem. Somehow this chip got blown. When I pulled it, there was no sign of any damage. Here's the old chip. I messed the legs pulling it out a little bit, but anyway, it was bad. So replacing that chip and putting a new socket, we got the board to boot up. Now, we can't get the 7th flash because it's not in the game and it doesn't have all the stuff it needs. But 6 of the 7 means this guy is good to go. So I'm very psyched we actually did bring this thing to life. Now, Should I replace these two caps? I'm thinking I won't. I don't want to mess with this. I don't want to introduce any unnecessary heat to the board that may screw the components. These capacitors, I'm not sure that they are that unreliable. I'll make a note that I've replaced other stuff, but I didn't replace these which are not electrolytic ones, I don't believe. So they're not supposed to have the same limited lifespan of the electrolytic ones. Anyway, somebody can correct me on that. But even though I did get new ones, I got the board to boot up. I've replaced all the bigger caps. Well, there's none on this, but I also did another board where I did that. So I think this board is good to go. I think it's ready. My theory is let's not mess with it too much. We got it working now. I don't see any components on here that really could be replaced that would make the board more reliable. It seems to be okay. So maybe the next thing we'll see is it thrown in the game, and then I can finally get a chance to see and play this game. Well, I got your attention. Also on the series on Kings of Steel, where's that other board? Let's see. How do you like that? I just worked on something else, and it's right in front of my face, and I miss it. Okay. Here is the soundboard where we had the blown capacitor, and I replaced the capacitor, which was right here, that went bzzz, and I also replaced every electrolytic capacitor. All these have been replaced. I metered them out, and they all were okay anyway. But again, this game is 30 years old, so it's about time they need to be replaced. So hopefully the soundboard will now be good to go too. I'm anxious to throw it in the game, see what we got. So, taking care of two things. We've got the Bally MPU board operational. Soundboard is recapped and ready to go. So maybe in a future video you'll actually see this Kings of Steel gameplay happening. And I got an interesting project I'm going to do with that game that I'm excited to jump into, where I'm going to mod it to address a rule set problem. But I'll talk more about that later. Anyway, we got the MPU board operational and booting. So mission accomplished. Thanks very much for watching. For more, visit PinballHelp.com. I've got a Facebook page, Facebook/PinballHelp. There's a subreddit, reddit.com/PinballHelp. There's a Twitter thing that I never use, but you could, if more people signed up, I probably would. Anyway, thanks for watching.